You're watching Force 13's live streaming service.
Hello everyone and welcome to Force 13 Live. We are here tonight with a extremely dangerous situation that is unfolding for places in Fiji. Cyclone Yasa, an extremely powerful Category 4 with winds of 155 miles per hour and a minimum central pressure of 929 millibars. With me tonight I do have my team, which is comprised of Alfiria, Farhan, Isaac, Kin, Dakota, and Christian. How are all of you tonight?
I'm doing fine.
How are you?
Doing fine as well.
Doing all right. I mean, we
Affirmative.
have an extremely dangerous situation that is currently unfolding. This is something that's quite remarkable. It was the earliest Category 5 on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale ever in the Southern Hemisphere, I believe. And this thing is still a monstrous and extremely dangerous Category 5 on the Australian scale. So, I mean, the storm's weakened a bit since earlier today, but it doesn't really reduce the threat level all that much. So, my question to the team, what really has changed today, and what's different now than it was last night when we were covering this?
You have to remember what it was last night.
The storm has continued to, overnight it pretty much maintained its intensity, and now, especially looking at radar, the storm appears to be on a weakening trend as it nears perhaps landfall over Fiji soon. However, that being said, any weakening is pretty much going to be too little too late at this point. This is still a incredibly dangerous and life-threatening system here. In fact, this is pretty much the biggest threat for the country here since, unfortunately, since Cyclone Winston in February 2016. And just to go back on what you were saying earlier, Thomas, the previous record for earliest Category 5 in this part of the world was with the Cyclone Zoe in late December 2002, and this easily beat that record by, I think, a little over a week. So another record-breaking system in 2020's books, unfortunately.
2020 does continue to be infamous for just breaking records. I'm looking at this radar imagery here, Isaac, and does that look like the onset of perhaps an Eyewall replacement cycle occurring to you?
Yeah, I have been noticing that the past few hours here. You can see that outer Eyewall start to be becoming more prominent there with time. Time remains to be seen whether or not it tries to complete this or not. If it, isn't able to do it till it nears landfall or makes landfall. If it does make landfall here in Fiji, which is seeming increasingly likely at this point that it will. At least the Eyewall make landfall on the coast of the country here. Here's a look at the target area imagery off of Himura 8 here, and you can see a little bit better here how the eye earlier was a lot more circular with time, and then now with time it's starting to get smaller and smaller, and it's starting to see more deeper convection trying to fire off around that. And you can see kind of like a gap in between those cooler cloud tops and the eye there. So definitely appears to be trying to undergo an Eyewall replacement cycle at this point in time, Thomas.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see that there extremely clearly. But it looks like from this point forward, we have a terminal weakening trend. Regardless of that, we're still, it looks like, going to be getting storm surge of Category 5 strength. just basically what you'd expect with a Category 5 storm as a result of this thing being a Category 5 for so long, and it's weakened too little too late to really lessen the impacts by enough for it to be of much significance, unfortunately. So now I want to talk
Really,
about... Oh, go on.
that's it. I just want to say that that's really the case with storm like this. It doesn't matter if it's weakening, is it closing towards land, if it maintains its peak intensity, especially Category 5, for so long, things like storm surge and damages would still be extremely severe. We see that in several examples of storms that make landfall as Category 3 or Category 4, but because it maintained Category 5 for a long time for water, the storm surge that arrive on land is extremely severe. The likes of Typhoon Fira in 59 in Nagoya, Japan, or Katrina in Mississippi in the Gulf Coast of the United States. That's sort of just an example. Perhaps it's going to be that extreme, but comparisons could be made.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an extremely dangerous situation. Again, the worst since Winston for Fiji, unfortunately. So I do want to talk about what is forecast for this system. There's been a stark shift in track today. Originally, it was going to be the western island of Fiji that was going to get it. The main island of Fiji that was going to be getting the landfall. Now it looks like the northeastern island is going to be receiving that landfall. Why did that happen? What caused the shift?
Probably
Probably
due in part to the storm being a lot stronger than initially anticipated, and probably feeling more of the steering currents than a forecast. And I believe it's also kind of shifted to kind of wobble a little bit more, kind of um, more to the east, and more so than the south in the last few hours with this particular storm. So it's not looking good at all whatsoever for Fiji at this point, no matter how you slice it.
I think that's a fair way of saying it. We have Fiji's cone here. This is RSMC Fiji's cone for this system, and you can see there an Australian scale, Category 5, all the way through its journey through Fiji. So that means it's going to have winds of above 130 miles an hour throughout its entire journey through Fiji, according to RSMC Fiji. Again, it's just devastating impacts. Force 13 also has a cone on this. You can see that here. We are predicting a landfall with maximum sustained winds of 145 miles per hour. I should point out this was made a couple hours ago, back when we estimated the storm to be 155 miles per hour. That has since gone down to 150 miles per hour, with a significant jump in pressure to correct the wind pressure relationship. That does have to happen occasionally with these satellite estimates. I guarantee you in post-analysis you won't be seeing jumps like that. But you can see there a landfall is anticipated within the next day, and we're likely going to be seeing it relatively soon. We'll talk more about when landfall is expected to occur relatively soon. But I also wanted to talk about the JTWC's cone, and all of these have in common a landfall occurring in that northeastern island of Fiji with significant wind speeds of around 140 to 150 miles an hour. So, I mean, it's pretty concerning to say the least.
Exactly. Yes, the storm is starting to weaken here as it was forecast to initially. However, that being said, the storm does appear to be trying to undergo an Eyewall replacement cycle here, and that's good and bad here. Good because it's going to help weaken the storm a little bit more. Bad because it's going to increase the wind field more. So more parts of Fiji here are going to start to experience those cyclone force, 64 knot or higher winds in the larger wind swath due to this Eyewall replacement cycle trying to undergo here with the system before it pretty much either inevitably makes landfall or comes really, really close to making landfall over Fiji.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, an extremely dangerous situation unfolding. I do want to talk about the other threat here, which is going to be rainfall. Rainfall is going to be quite significant with this system. I do want to take a look at that real quick. The H-Wharf has been trending down on maximum rainfall, now still having about 43 inches of rain potentially falling in Fiji. That, I'm getting the conversion right now, is over 1,000 millimeters, or 1 full meter, of rain being shown as possible by the HWRF. We're seeing 600 to 700 millimeters of rain at maximum being shown by COAMPS, which is a model that the Navy provides. So, I mean, we're seeing a pretty fair chance of significant rainfall. There is some debate as to just how high it's going to get, but regardless, flooding and mudslides are going to be threats for these areas.
Exactly. I believe actually, I want to say Farhan has shared with us. I don't have it on screen yet, but shared with us news about. I believe they evacuated a few houses along the coastline of Fiji due to the flooding concern. If I'm not mistaken, we could elaborate a little bit on that,
There
Farhan.
are last minute, and it really is right now. It's really the last chance to make any preparation evacuation, because the window of opportunity is closing. And it's really important for preparation to be either already completed or very close to completion, because it really is really close now. If you haven't finished it, you better finish it, because when it's too late, I'm sorry to say this, but you're screwed. The condition is going to get extremely bad.
And that has been echoed by the government of Fiji. They have been stating all day, please evacuate now. The time of no return is starting to occur. And in the northeastern island of Fiji, curfews have been put in place from about, I think it was about either 4 or 8 p.m. tonight, and it's going to last until 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, so Vanuatu is that northeastern island that's going to be having those curfews. I think it is really kind of jarring just how suddenly the track has shifted. When this first formed, we thought it was going to go in between Vanuatu and Fiji. Then it slowly shifted. Then we thought the big western island, Viti Levu, we thought that was going to get hit. And now it looks like Vanuatu is going to get hit. So, unbelievable stuff there. This system has been defying expectation throughout its entire life. And I think that I speak for the rest of the team when I say the expectations were not a Category 5 when this first formed.
Yeah,
Not really.
When
Yeah. Nowhere near
when
that
this
strong.
first formed, we also had Zazu on the line as well. I personally, I didn't think we would get much out of this storm, but wow, that's all I have to say at this time. Just
As
wow.
Released Category 5 for the basin in both Saffir-Simpson and Australian scale. This one.
As per classic 2020 fashion, this storm has defied all expectations. At this point, I think the other big impact that we have to talk about is the storm surge. Now, I know that our own team member Kay said that we could get 10 to 15 feet of storm surge with this. I'd be inclined to agree with that. I'm not overly knowledgeable on storm surge forecasting. What I can tell you is that using a blend of wave height modeling, waves as high as 40 feet could be hitting along the shore there of Fiji. So, very high wave heights and very significant storm surge will be coming in. Inundation flooding is likely to occur in the areas closest to the Eyewall.
Might already start to happen, considering looking at this imagery, it's already very close.
It is getting quite close. The storm surge is likely occurring already.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Exactly. This is why people need to be taking this cyclone seriously. Now with us thinking it's going to make a impact here a lot sooner than we thought, really just helps drive the point here for you to continue to prepare if you haven't already. If you haven't already prepared to do it as soon as you possibly can. Do not wait to the very last minute where it's too late. You're starting to see the tropical storm force winds. Do it as soon as you possibly can, and hope for the best, really, and listen to your local government officials down there too, and listen to what they're telling you to do. You guys have been through Cyclone Winston in 2016, and unfortunately in 2020 you guys are dealing with another intense cyclone knocking on your doorstep here.
I mean, this is going to be really, really significant. I do also want to talk about landfall. When do we think landfall is going to occur? I have made the prediction that this will be making landfall around 6 UTC, around the city of Bua, which is there on that northeastern island of Vinalevu. So I guess to the team, when do you think that landfall will occur with this system?
60 is fair considering how close it is already and the relative speed of it. I think that's a fair estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so too. I mean, the DTWC is pretty much right as you say, maybe slightly later by maybe 30 minutes or an hour, but not much. It's going to be happening a lot sooner than we originally thought, unfortunately, with this scenario.
Yeah, which means unfortunately there's not going to be as much time for this to weaken before it does get there. So, unfortunately, I think we're looking at easily a Category 4 landfall in Saffir-Simpson Category 5 Australia, and I don't think there's any way that this is not going to do that at this point.
I mean, regardless of it already weakened a little bit, this is still a really intense storm. Do not take anything lightly. I mean, the time to act is now. Please just prepare for the storm.
I think all of that is good to heed. So now to the chat. We will be taking questions here as Yasa is bearing down on Fiji. If you have questions relating to Yasa, please ask them. Just tag Force13. You can just say at Force13. It lights up in a nice orange for us, and we'll be able to see your questions. If you're from the United States and we're hoping for more on the nor'easter going on, you can go over to the U.S. channel where a live event is occurring right now as well, talking about the United States situation. But right now we're going to be focusing on Yasa and exclusively Yasa and maybe some other developments around the world. So let's take some questions. First of all, is there a storm surge map? Unfortunately, there's not. At least not that I know of. Does Fiji produce storm surge maps? I don't believe so.
Don't believe so. No.
Yes.
No, I'm not. I'm not aware of them either. If they are, they're going to be probably really hidden in the website.
Yeah, unfortunately, Fiji doesn't produce storm surge maps. The National Hurricane Center is really being the pioneer right now with that kind of stuff, and that's still really experimental. Storm surge forecasting has a long way to go before we can really start doing that with the level of accuracy that we see with things like wind speeds and rainfall and stuff like that. But with that being said, I do want to take a look at some of this radar imagery a little bit more closely because it's definitely clear an eyewall replacement cycle is taking place, but is that a break in the inner eyewall? Does it look like the inner eyewall is really starting to break down, like we're about to see that outer eyewall take over? And I'm also wondering, do we think it could complete before it makes landfall and even attempt to re-intensify a little bit?
Well, what time is it right now? 0 UTC. So it
Yeah.
has about 6 hours, give or take, to do this if it wants to do it. I think on average it takes a little bit longer than that, so I don't think it's going to necessarily complete it. You never know with these things. I could probably eat my words here, but going off of what an average storm does, I don't think it's gonna complete it before its possible landfall here. And I'm certainly am noticing, like you're saying too, how the inner eyewall is really eroding there in those last few frames there. So definitely an eyewall replacement cycle in the works for this storm. And like I said, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's good, of course, because it weakens the storm a little bit here. Not by much. You don't expect it to go from 140 to say 100 miles an hour. It's not going to be anything like that. But it's also bad because it increases the wind field size. So say instead of getting tropical storm force winds 50 kilometers out, you're going to get them maybe 75 or 100 kilometers away from the center. So please also keep that in mind. Just because we're having an eyewall replacement cycle right now, doesn't mean you're not going to see a serious cyclone here. Just like I said earlier, no matter how you slice it, this is a serious cyclone. Your time to prepare for this storm is very much so running out as we speak here. If you happen to know anybody that lives in Fiji right now, please call them. Please let them know, make them aware of this cyclone, and let them know to prepare for this. In their time, they have not that much time actually. to prepare for this, but to make sure they're aware of it and they could go into a safe spot once the worst of this storm goes over there.
Yeah, and with that being said, we have another big question here. This one being, what is the closest major population center in the direct path of Yasa's forecasted path? I believe, if I just take a look here real quick at the forecasted path from us, the closest particular area. I mean, this thing's going to be impacting the capital quite easily. But if I did have to talk about really major population centers, forgive me, I'm not overly familiar with Fiji.
While you're doing that, I do have they posted a thing on Facebook about 30 minutes ago. I know I'm gonna butcher the names of these town names, so I apologize in advance. They say it's about 100 kilometers north of Yasa Wara Iwara, or about 215 kilometers north of Nadi, or about 220 kilometers west-northwest of Labasa at around 11 a.m. Fiji Standard Time today. And they just give more information here. Just give more information, and they say that the center of Yasa is expected to be about 50 kilometers north-northeast of Moala, or about 75 kilometers east-southeast of Gao, or about 165 kilometers east of Suva at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning is what they forecast at this point in time from the Fiji Meteorological Service.
Someone asked what is the CVPS stage, and if it's the CVPS stage 9.
Yes, it is. That means that. Oh, go on.
Yeah.
That means that catastrophic damage is possible with this system. Catastrophic to extreme damage is possible with this system. We might receive a downgrade to a stage 8 on that here in a little bit because those wind speeds it's looking like it is weakening slightly faster than anticipated, which is always good news. But yeah, it's really what we're seeing at the moment with this system. So now on to more questions. The next question is, what do we think of this potential Australian cyclone that could form? Basically, when we talk about it next, it's likely going to form at this point, in my opinion at least. I'd give it a 70% chance of formation. To the team, what do you think the odds are of this system forming?
Jason has previously said yesterday that radar over the Northern Territory has indicated that the system that is said to be its precursor already have a broad how do you say that, low pressure circulation. It only has that, but it's still in a very broad. So it is probably very likely that it will form at this point.
That is how it appears. I would be inclined to agree with that it is pretty likely that this system will form. And then the other question, the other questions that I do want to talk about here. We've already addressed Eyewall replacement cycles. Will this storm re-intensify after landfall? I think we can answer that with a resounding no.
No.
Yeah,
Yes.
no.
That is a
No.
If you watched my video update, which I put out a few hours ago, I did note that the sea surface temperatures as the storm progresses start to cool down, so there is absolutely no chance of re-strengthening.
Yep, that is fair. We have another question here. How large is the eye? Isaac, I know you're our satellite expert. Could you get us an estimate on just how large that eye is?
Let me see if I could do that here. Give me a second. It looks like... Oh, it's freaking out on me here. Hold on. I'll get back to you with this in a second with that.
Right.
Well, Isaac is doing that thing. I'd like to mention that the track for this Cyclone Yasa after landfall is turning towards the southwest. So the possibility is that it might impact the northern island of New Zealand as quite powerful extratropical cyclones, which, although it's nothing new to them, they've got this quite a few times within the last few years. It is still quite a threat for New Zealand. So New Zealanders should probably watch the progress of it very closely.
Just did
Certainly.
a eye size estimate, and it's roughly about 30 kilometers, 31 kilometers wide.
And that would be about 18.6 miles wide.
So there we
Off
go.
of Himwar 8.
We have our eye estimate there. Our next question here: if the inner eye wall breaks, then intensity will increase, is what this person's wondering. Not exactly. I mean, in this case, I don't think the storm has enough time that the inner eye wall can completely dissipate. In the event that the inner eye wall could completely collapse with the system, like right now in that outer eye wall filled in, you could see it maybe increase a little bit. You're not going to see a huge increase. Wind shear at this point is too high for that. But you could certainly see a slight increase if it managed to do that. Luckily, that won't be occurring. So terminal weakening is the trend from this point forward. We have another question.
It is there.
Oh, go on.
Not good.
Alright, so our next question is, what are the tropical storm force, hurricane force, and peak wind fields currently within Yasa? So when it comes to tropical storm force winds, this is according to the advanced Dvorak technique. This is derived using climatology, but on the northeastern quadrant, we have about 185 nautical miles out. That's how far those tropical storm force winds go. 165 nautical miles out on the southeast side. On the southwest side, 120 nautical miles, and on the southwest side, 175 nautical miles. When it comes to the hurricane force, we have 65 nautical miles out on the northeast side, 55 nautical miles on the southeast side. Southwest side is 30 nautical miles, and the northwest side is 60 nautical miles, with a radius of maximum winds, according to this, being about 18 kilometers. So hopefully that is able to get you a good estimate on what exactly it is that we are thinking right now in terms of the wind field of this system. Fiji is likely already experiencing tropical storm force winds, much of Fiji, and those hurricane force winds, especially for the northeastern island of Vanuatu, likely just offshore. Our next question is, when will Yasa finally dissipate? When is that anticipated? Well, Force 13 anticipates that even 5 days out, this will still be a tropical cyclone. It will be quite weak with winds of 45 miles an hour. I'd say by this time next week, I can nearly guarantee you that it will be out of here. We won't have it anymore in any respect whatsoever. So I would say that it is very unlikely that this will still be tropical by this time next week, and definitely won't be by the day after. Next question. What is the costliest Australian cyclone, and could Yasa beat that record? I don't know what the costliest cyclone is, but I can already tell you Yasa won't beat it. It's not large enough, it's not strong enough.
It won't be Winston, I'll tell you that much.
It will be Winston? Okay, then yeah, I don't see Yasa beating Winston in that regard. And speaking of which, that actually goes perfectly into our next question. How does Yasa compare to Winston? Well, Fiji is saying that this will be the next Winston for them, the Fiji Meteorological Service. I think it would be fair to say that we don't think this is the next Winston, but we certainly think that this is serious enough it needs to be treated as if it is.
Yeah, this is as a reminder, this is the strongest threat for Fiji since, of course, infamous Cyclone Winston in February 2016. It's not the same caliber as Winston was as it was nearing landfall here, but regardless, still a dangerous and life-threatening storm we're looking at here.
Winston is that it looks like it is the storm. Like before Winston, Fiji has never experienced a landfall that is extremely strong and damaging. And it looks like Winston is the jolt they needed to finally realize that tropical cyclones are extremely serious issues. And when one come, you have to take it seriously. And I think that's being done right now with Yasa, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, I mean, Yasa's no joke here, and we are just continuing to really be, with what exactly it's managed to do. Again, a record-breaking system. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask us. Just tag Force13 in the chat, and remember, it'll light up in bright orange for us. We'll be taking questions for the remainder of this hour, but with that being said, to the team, as this makes landfall, what should people in Fiji keep in mind? What's the most important thing for them to remember?
To make sure you have a sturdy shelter to ride this out in. Don't ride this out along the coast. Get as far inland as you possibly can. Preferably try to ride this out in a concrete building. Do not try to ride this out in any wooden structure of any kind or any kind of like really badly built structure. You're gonna want to have a concrete structure to be in the storm, and if there's any shelters nearby, and they're allowing you to get in a still room, please go to that as soon as you possibly can as a last resort here. As you know, the hours tick on down here, and the less time you have to prepare ahead of time of this storm from its worst effects.
Whatever happens, do not go outside. If you try to go outside when the storm is passing at peak at its passage or at landfall, if the wind didn't pick you up and take you somewhere else, possibly to your death, then a flying debris will probably do. So do not go outside, whatever happens.
And these are the exact reasons as to why Fiji has mandated a cure tonight going into tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be nasty. Our next question here: can Yasa slow down, then stall, then re-intensify? Nope, it's not. Not slowing down from here.
Not happy.
No.
Yeah, no. Next question. This is a person from Fiji. He says, "Hi, I'm from Fiji, living in Ba in the Western Division. And I have a question. How devastating will this system be for the western region of Viti Levu, especially Lakutoka, Ba, Tuva?" So that's the big island of Fiji there. On the southeastern side of things, and you said the Western Division. If you're in the Western Division, then you're actually not going to be getting the same impacts that we were expecting just a day ago. You're still definitely going to be getting tropical storm force winds, and in a worst case scenario, the center of the system could even pass on the northern side. But the storm surge threat for you is nowhere near as high as it was. That's going to be for the eastern side. The western side will actually have winds heading away from the coast, so storm surge won't be as big of a threat. Regardless, you're still going to be getting very strong winds from this, anywhere from best case scenario, about 75, 80 miles an hour, to worst case scenario, you're getting right up there with those 130 mile an hour plus winds. I think that the biggest thing to remember with this is that regardless of the best and worst case scenarios, this needs to be treated as if it is a worst case scenario situation.
I think there's also for the Western Division that the rain and the flash flooding will also be a major threat since the rain has come down pretty much from yesterday into today. If the winds and storms is not so much of a problem, then the rain and flash flooding will certainly be one to look out for.
We have a lot of information flowing around in the chat. I do want to clarify some stuff. We operationally here at Force 13 had this storm peak at 160 miles per hour, 914 millibars. I know there have been some other estimates out there. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center peaked this at 160 miles per hour, I believe 914 or 913 millibars, with Fiji having a significantly higher strength. And we really think that that's due to the fact that this is threatening Fiji, and the RSMC at Fiji is trying to really bring the message home that this is going to be bad. So they're inflating the intensity estimates some to really send the message that this is a serious situation. Is the intensity as high as Fiji is saying? Unless they know something that we don't, it's definitely not.
No.
I'd say it's a fat chance that the storm is really as strong as they're saying it is.
Yeah, I mean, I chose not to include them in the update video because I just found their estimates to be. I don't want to say anything bad here, but I found their estimate to be slightly ridiculous.
It was definitely high.
Yeah.
And again,
It's the reason why I chose not to include them in the comparing different RSMCs. That slide.
Yeah, and I mean, again, there's they're the RSMC of the region. They're entitled by their own standards estimate the intensity. We just disagree with the estimate. We think it is a fair bit weaker than that. Regardless, still, storm surge will be devastating. Rainfall will be pretty bad as well, and those wind speeds are still going to be able to produce catastrophic damage.
Again, yeah, this is still is a very strong storm. It is a stage 9 CDPS, so still very strong. Just not quite as strong as the Fiji RSMC as a whole.
Yeah, and again, if you guys have any questions, any more questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to ask us. Isaac, do we have any new information when it comes to radar imagery?
Unfortunately, it appears the Labasa and the Nadi, not the Nadi, the Nasuri, I believe it's what it's called, radars have gone down. So no, we only have radar from the west coast of the island here, Nadi. We've lost communication with both the other radar sites on the eastern part of VT Levu, and the only one on Vanuatu Levu, unfortunately, at this point in time. Hopefully they restore that in time, but who knows. So we only have this radar to go with at this point in time. This is the last radar frame right here from the Labasa radar before it went down here.
So it's been a little while now, over an hour since the previous frame. So conditions are definitely deteriorating there quite quickly.
Yeah, but at least on a Nadi radar, you can see the eye there. Not the best, of course, because it's gonna be covered up by the mountains here. You could see it generally continuing to move to the southeast here.
Somebody asked, do you think Sasu will intensify? First of all, it is dead. Sasu is dead. Sasu is already post-tropical now.
Zazu, right?
Yes.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Zazu, I believe, moved south enough to no longer be a Fiji's responsibility. I think that's what happened.
It's all day extratropical at this point, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh yeah, there is that as well.
Next question. This one's saying, we just talked about Zazu. How's the Mediterranean cyclone looking? We haven't talked too much about the Mediterranean system.
Oh, that.
I do believe that has made landfall today.
It made landfall, I want to say around 1930 or 1940 UTC earlier today.
Yeah, I think it was.
It made landfall. It made landfall around the Lebanon, Syria border.
And we can see that there. I'm just taking a look at it. Yeah, it's well inland now, so it's easily below tropical storm status at this point.
Yeah, that was a pretty much a freak storm. I think that was tagged as formed unofficially yesterday, and of course now it's inland right now.
Someone's
So,
saying that they think the radar makes the storm look like it's a Category 3. Is it a Category 3? They're asking us. No. This is a Category 4. This has winds of 150 miles per hour and a pressure of 919 millibars. I can say with near certainty it is a Category 4 right now. I would be very surprised if we had recon or something in the South Pacific. They flew a plane in there and they found a Category 3.
Yeah.
Aries,
In terms
a
of
question.
observation-wise, the only thing
Did-
we have
did
to rely
I-
on is surface observations from the ground.
Did I say 919 millibars?
Yes, you did.
I
You
meant
did say
929. I meant 929. That was my bad.
922.
Oops.
One for the blooper reel.
Oh dear.
There is a question here from another Fijian. He said that the posting is, I went to Cyclone Winston in Vua. Will the eye potentially move more south to affect the southern coast? Navua is in the central division, the southern coast, which means is close to the capital of Suva.
So places around Suva, when it comes to that, worst case scenario, the center tracks, basically directly over Suva is a worst case scenario for them. We think that odds are that it's going to be making landfall in Vanua Levu, and then it's going to be moving into other parts of Fiji, but it's not going to make a direct hit there, we don't think. It's certainly possible, but at this point we don't think it's going to. Still, though, tropical storm force to cyclone or hurricane equivalent force winds are likely with this system for areas like Suva. And they need to be treating this seriously as if they are going to get a direct hit. They should be preparing as if they're going to get a direct hit.
It's the best to prepare for the worst, even though it seems like it won't happen. It is best to just prepare, because it is better to be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Never take anything for granted.
No.
Exactly. We've seen a lot of bad, nasty storms this year, and we don't want to see that happen again here. So please take this cyclone seriously and learn from some of the past examples that have happened this year, and around the general region here to take this cyclone seriously.
Certainly, we have a question here about how Zazu's looking on satellite. Well, let's take a look at it. That's Zazu. It is
It looks
a
awful.
broad, huge, extratropical cyclone. It is not tropical. It is certainly not tropical. This is
tropical.
yes. You can see its
pretty
rather
big.
large influence.
I don't even know.
You can just see the shear streaming straight into the thing. I'm seeing it on my end too, and it's wow.
It is quite impressive.
Because of tropical cyclone.
Quite impressive tropical cyclone. I know, Isaac, you have target imagery, some closer up, high resolution imagery of this. Are there any noticeable features that you've seen, I guess, in latest imagery? Or is there anything that we can conclude from latest imagery? I have your screen share pulled up here. And what it looks like is that cloud tops have actually gone up a little bit. It looks like that ring of minus 70s is attempting to reconnect. Do we think that could mark, because we saw that inner eyewall really breaking down in the last frames of radar before it went out. Do we think that this is, especially with this new burst, basically a signal that the eyewall replacement cycle is complete, the outer eyewall is beginning to contract, and we're going to begin to see intensification up until landfall?
I don't know just yet. I'd like to wait a little bit and see if it continues on. But certainly, like as you've stated on the last few frames there, especially this western side here, you can see earlier it wasn't really that covered with deep cold convection, and now it's starting to get covered up by convection there. So it certainly is trying to have a go at one last bit of intensification here, maybe just before landfall here, which if it does do that, would of course be really unfortunate. And I mean, hopefully that's not the case here, but we could easily see the storm trying to do that here within the next 6 hours or so. It has before it makes landfall, really close to making landfall here over Fiji.
Even with that, you still need to factor in the wind shear. And so when factoring that in, this isn't really going to, if it does intensify up until landfall, it's not going to be intensifying by much.
No, this won't be
Yeah, it's definitely running out of time.
rapidly strengthening.
Yeah, at the very least, if it does complete it before, at least maintain its current intensity at this point, at the very least.
I would be inclined to agree with that assessment. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, please tag us. Just type at Force 13. It'll light up in a bright orange for us, and we will be able to answer your questions regarding the system. But yeah, that satellite imagery is looking quite impressive in those latest frames again. That ballooning of minus 70s on the western side, that is a cause of concern for me, and this new appearance of minus 80s on the eastern side. I think it's a sign that this is going to at least maintain intensity up until landfall, which is unfortunate. Which means a 150-mile-an-hour landfall looks to be the most likely scenario at this point.
Yeah. So, picture, I guess, for some sort of comparison here. I know it's a completely different basin, completely different storm here, but you could just picture, I guess, some of the wind damage you saw with Hurricane Laura earlier this year. Picture that, and imagine it down here in Fiji is pretty much and this is again if it maintains its current intensity, which seems at least likely at this point. What type of damage we could potentially see here down in Fiji, unfortunately, from this cyclone. So just picture that, and it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a really rough time for you guys down there. And again, really hope you guys have prepared ahead of time with this. If you haven't prepared already, you're really running out of time here. You're really cutting it short here. And you have to be where you are as soon as you possibly can here. This is not fun and games right now. Yeah, this is not fun and games. You got to take this storm seriously here. This is not your average, say, Category 1, tropical storm you see here every now and then. This is a this is a extremely dangerous high-end Category 4 hurricane we're looking at right now, at least on a Saffir-Simpson scale terms of it here, and just a really unfortunate event here. And again, if you have anybody that lives down here in Fiji, especially this island right here, Vanuatu, if you have anybody that lives down here, please call them and let them know that there is a dangerous cyclone here, that it's threatening you guys. Make sure to let them know about that, and make them aware that they need to be taking shelter as soon as they possibly can. Again, this is not the storm we want to be messing around with at this point. If you mess around with it, you could be risking your life here. This is how serious the situation is at this point in time, regardless of if it's continuing to weaken here, if it's maintaining its intensity at this point, is really what I want to stress right now.
Yeah, certainly. I would like to talk about a question here that I think is of more interest now with this latest imagery. Will the Yasa be able to complete its Eyewall replacement cycle before landfall? And I think there's a possibility it has. Could we get latest radar from that one radar that's still up and attempt to see if there's anything that we can find, if we can find that inner Eyewall, perhaps?
If it already has done, that was quick.
I mean,
Can we go to this one here? Again, this is the only radar site that's working at this point from Nadi, but at least it's something here you could see. I am noticing the outer and inner eyewalls becoming closer and closer together there in the last few frames. I don't know if you're noticing that as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. So
and again, the eye is right here.
Yeah, so I think that might be signaling at least some near completion. I think that's why we're seeing this renewed firing of convection, because the storm might again be going for one last go at some maybe gradual but still strengthening, which is bad news.
Yeah, if it is doing it that fast, that's That's certainly worrying there if it is doing it in that fast of a manner.
Yeah, definitely.
There is report from social media that around right now, 1 p.m. Fiji time, the winds and the rains have started to come down hard. And for those living in Fiji, it is important to note that this is only the start. It will only get worse as the hours goes on for today and into tomorrow.
Yeah, speaking of that, here's a video that I believe Farhan shared a little bit earlier. This is apparently from Fiji. Let me actually turn off the sound there. You can see the current conditions. This is about as of about an hour ago here. So the conditions are only going to deteriorate from this point on. And you can see there looks like parts of dead leaves off the palm trees are falling off already. Just really bad inclement conditions right now. And again, this is about an hour ago when this video was taken.
Yeah, certainly. We have another person saying that they thought hurricane season was over. I can assure you that the cyclone season in the southern hemisphere is just beginning. It lasts through, I believe, is it April or May in the southern hemisphere? Or is there not an official?
Technically, technically it ends in April. There are sometimes some stragglers that last into May, so that's the reason why most RSMC in the southern hemisphere put the season boundary as from June 1st to May 31st, basically year round, because system could form even though it's rare.
Certainly. And it looks like we have some new minus 80s going up there in the western side there. That's concerning to see that new burst completely fill in that gap. And I don't know about you, but that looks like a classic sign that that eyewall replacement cycle is near or at completion.
Yeah,
I do not.
it's really I hate how it's another storm that's really trying to annoy us here. This is what you're seeing right now is at least a storm that's trying to maintain its intensity here, and of course its current intensity is a high-end Category 4 equivalent on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Um, Not a Category 5 at this point, but that doesn't matter because you're still going to be seeing some serious impacts from this. And as you can see in those last few frames there, especially like Thomas has pointed out, it's really trying to get back together here in the last few frames there, which is really bad and unfortunate to see here. And again, I just want to stress here with the eyewall placement cycle. Let's go back to radar here for a second. It's kind of a double-edged sword with an eyewall placement cycle. It's good because, of course, it lowers the wind speed by a little bit here. You're talking maybe a 5-10 mile per hour decrease in whatever the winds were originally before the eyewall placement cycle started. But it's also bad in a way because it's going to increase the wind field size of the tropical storm force wind. So instead of, say, like I said earlier, say you get 50 kilometers of tropical storm force winds before the eyewall replacement cycle, after it completes, you say you might see tropical storm force conditions extend as far out as maybe 75 kilometers, 100 kilometers away from the center. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here with the eyewall replacement cycle that's currently ongoing with Yasa.
Pretty much a given that all of Fiji will be affected. The Prime Minister of the country previously said that about 95% of the country's population will be affected in some way by Yasa, and with the wind expanding now, I think we could safely say that it is almost close to 100%.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Yeah, you can see.
just another unfortunate situation in 2020.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, regardless if you're going to get an eyewall or not, pretty much most of Fiji here is getting at least rainfall from the cyclone here. So you can see in these this radar composite before the radars go down. You can see VT Levu and I already forgot the name of this island already. Thomas, if you could remind me. This northern part of the island here, I already forgot the name of it, but they're both getting rainfall, heavy rainfall that is, and I'm certain probably flash flooding is ongoing in both the islands at this point due to them getting this heavy rainfall for I want to say at least the last 24 hours here already. So regardless if you're in Eyewall or not, you're still going to be getting some heavy rainfall and perhaps flooding rainfall here in certain parts of the country.
Oh, okay, hold on. I've seen an update from the Twitter here. I'm not sure where it is, but it is report that at 12:50 p.m. the power was cut. I could only assume that for the northern island, Vanuatu, I believe, but power was cut. Power has been cut, so they are now without power.
And again, can you repeat where that's at for anybody who may be just joining?
The northern island. I forgot
Northern,
what the name of the island is again. It is.
I believe it's
The person
Wanu
said that
Levu.
it is. Yes. The person said that it has gone off the first. It's gone off about 2 hours ago, but now right now it's flickering, so it is going on and off. That is the latest report.
Wow. And that is to be expected, unfortunately, as the storm gets closer and closer to land here, especially the island of uh, Suva, not Suva. I keep forgetting the name of it. Yeah, Venalivu. Yeah, I'm not good with remembering this stuff, but yeah, as it gets closer and closer to this island here, the conditions are going to continue to deteriorate here with time. Um, so just again, time's running out here if you haven't decided on what to do here with this particular cyclone.
It really is, and I mean, this is just one of those things. This looks like the scenario that we were not hoping for, where this is going to be strengthening upon landfall, and that's quite unfortunate to say the least.
It's really trying to at least maintain its intensity here before landfall over Wanu Levu right there. And I apologize if I butchered the pronunciation of that. We don't really talk about this area of the world that often here, so I apologize in advance for my butchering of the pronunciation of these islands and city names.
Yeah, but I mean, landfall is quickly approaching here, and we will likely be seeing more live coverage, at least an automated stream at some point tonight, which will be covering this system as it does head towards land. With that being said, we're about to end things off. So to the team, what are your final thoughts? Let's just go down the line here. Farhan, what are your final thoughts on this system?
Honest, I I have lost pretty much all of my sense of uniqueness with all the storms that have been 2020. From Amphan to now, there's just so many storms doing so many wacky things. Really, the only thing I could say is, please be careful. Please take it seriously. It will be bad, so prepare for the worst.
Isaac, final thoughts?
Pretty much echoing what Thomas and Farhan had been stating earlier. Please take this cyclone seriously. This is not the cyclone to mess around with whatsoever. If we're still debating on what to do here, time is really running out here, especially on the island of Wanu Levu of Fiji right now. So please take this cyclone seriously. Listen to all your local officials here. Listen to what they tell you to do. If you have any friends or family that happen to live in the path of this cyclone, especially Wanu Levu, please let them know, make them aware of the cyclone before they lose cell service down there, and tell them to get to shelter immediately as soon as they possibly can. Stay away from the coast, get as high as you possibly can in elevation. Don't ride this out in a wooden house by any means or any kind of shanty structure. Ride this out in a concrete structure, and if there's any shelters nearby, get into a shelter. If they have enough room and capacity to hold you, get into that shelter and ride the storm out. It's going to be a really scary night for all of you guys. I'm sure of it. But if you follow the directions given by your local government and stay safe and listen to the weather service as well, you'll make it out just fine. It's just going to be a really scary night for all of you, I'm sure.
Yeah, Ken, you have any final thoughts?
Well, I hope this storm will pass really quick and hope the people there will stay safe and evacuated already. As I said, this is gonna be a long night.
That it will. Dakota, final thoughts?
I want to say, please do not take anything for granted. Time to act is now. Do not wait until the storm is basically on top of you to do anything. If you do, it will not end well for you.
I think that's a fair assessment. And Christian, what are your final thoughts?
Basically, just echoing that everything that basically everyone has said. Really, I mean, if you're not prepared, it's almost too late. You really should be I can't speak now. That's how astonished I am with this storm. Like, you really should have your preparations complete right now. Pay attention to your local radio for any news updates, and it's basically going to be a very long night. So stay safe.
Yeah, that's really the message here. Stay safe, everyone. If you're in Fiji, hunker down because it's going to be a long night. We're ending off coverage here for now. We'll likely be back here later with either an automated stream or live commentary as the storm is about to make landfall. With that being said, again, thank you all so much for watching. This is Force 13. We'll be signing off.